So, what's
Hey,
shaking? This is
not
a
too much.
semi-regular thing we got going on here.
Semi-regular?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually getting it all. So,
I eat my fiber.
yeah, definitely. Trying to think here. I gotta paint some Mac.
So the other one, it worked out fine. Turns out I had my headphones unplugged. So when I was freaking out about, hey, it's not working, none of my stuff's working, and I don't know if it's gonna work out. And yeah, I had my headphones unplugged.
Oh, okay.
So actually everything was fine.
Okay.
And
Well, that's good.
I was just a spaz.
Well, that's not uncommon for you.
No, it's
So did Vince like his indoctrination into the thing? Have you talked to him since? Or?
yeah. I just talked to him a second ago. He said, "When are you guys doing another one?" And I said, "Right now." And if you want to join, I gave him the link to that other thing, but he didn't show up. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he was like, "I don't want to do it right now," or "I don't want to ever do it again."
It was more one of those things. I just said it to be nice. I didn't really mean it.
No, I would have if the other meeting area thing would have worked. I would have.
No,
Whatever. Actually, it would work out even better because then you could have people, if they came on or dropped off, it wouldn't ruin the recording.
Well, I think
So that would work out really well. But
we'll figure it out. It'll
yeah, I think that almost worked. So it's like
I don't know why it. I'm sure nobody's going to listen to our conversation talking about why some other service didn't work. But just to be clear, we tried a different service so we could sync up more people. And for some reason we were getting a glitch and it just wasn't working. It was dropping. It wasn't picking up my microphone. So that's why we switched back to our standard format today. And maybe next week we'll have something better. But right now this is where we're at.
And if I was able to get a bigger video on on Google Hangouts or something, we could do that. But the way it works, it minimizes one of the screens. So or any screen that's not the person talking. So then you wind up having, only one screen big and in the center.
Okay.
And so it's not going to work for what we're doing.
Yeah. I've never used Google Hangouts anyway, so no loss.
The other one maybe I'll get that to go eventually. So
sure.
Try it again.
Well,
what's that about? No, nothing.
So are you going to sculpt Don Knotts for all of us?
Oh, maybe. You know what? I hadn't actually decided. I started thinking about doing all this other stuff and getting ready and organized for the Global Game Jam.
Yeah, how's that going to work? What's that all about?
Oh, well, I described it on Twitter just a little bit ago as nerd camping.
Okay.
so you're gonna go to the university,
right.
And then they have actually a really nice building there, and it's all rigged up for doing different. I don't know. It's a digital library they call it. So
right.
It's got all this stuff in there, and it's all wired everywhere, and you get a whole bunch of people together and say, hey, make a game, you bunch of nerds. And then you just sit around with a bunch of people and gradually stink up the joint.
Okay.
So I think that's what it is.
Okay. Well, have fun.
And spend the whole weekend. No, actually, it's I've done the last 3, and it's been they've always been fun.
Mm-hmm. It's mostly programmers?
There's a lot of programmers. There's a lot of artists. There was one team last year that was pretty much all artists. They had 2 programmers and everybody else was artists. So it was kind of like a slideshow of paintings.
Oh, okay.
That they put together. And, that you kind of interact with as it went on. And
Okay.
then there's usually a few musicians and some sound people, and
Oh,
they kind of
so
bounce around from team to team. And
it's definitely more of a variety than I had thought there'd be.
yeah, there's
Because last time you talked about it, it sounded like it was mostly just other. It was mostly programmers and designers, not so much other. Like I would never have thought like a sound guy would be going. This is kind of what I'm
yeah,
doing.
there's always some couple of people who do just sound, like they just spend the whole weekend writing songs for everybody, and they kind of become like the outsource house. So everybody comes up and being like, "Can I get some music? Can I get some music?" And they'll either have something they already had, or they'll pound something out in a couple minutes,
Okay.
and then there's less of that with the artists, but there's a certain amount of that, and where people kind of just do different drawings or models for different groups. And so I was kind of thinking I might try to do that, like just be a floater,
Right.
just wheel around to different groups and try to do different, like, just 3D modeling, because I've found that's kind of in short supply. There's a lot of 2D artists, but not very many 3D modelers.
Why do you think that is?
You know what? I don't know. I have a suspicion it's more technical, so people are a little scared to try it in the first place. So there are just fewer 3D artists as it is, but and the time it takes, like you can draw a sprite in a couple minutes and then you're done it.
Right.
And there's not anything else to do. But when you do a 3D model, then you got to rig it and do some other tweaking and adjusting, and you can't have a real high poly count, and you got to UV unwrap it, and you know the score. I don't know, maybe other people don't know the score. You got to UV unwrap it and paint the texture and do.
Yeah.
There's several steps.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's not the sexy stuff. I think
No,
a lot of the artists just want to do the drawing and just design a character and let somebody else worry about how it actually works to get it into the game. I think there seems to be a lot of that, but I'm seeing more and more now with the advent of 3D printing, and I think that's just going to change our world completely. You're seeing more and more requests for 3D artists, right? Like you'll see character artist ads here and there. And when I think character artist, I think character designer, like someone to draw, right? But when you actually look at the ad, it's full on. We want a 3D modeler, right? And there's more. It seems like there's more and more call for that type of a position. At least I've been seeing it, and I think it's it's demand, supply and demand, right? If they're going to need people to, for every drawing you need a guy to model it, and all the different elements in a game, right? Like it's funny, a lot of people are attracted to character design. A lot of people want to draw characters, but when you really think about it, there's one main character in the game, one or two, and all the places the characters been and all the things that they interact with, right? So the character is sort of the sexy job, but it's not. It's really not it's an important part of the production, but it's not a big part of the production. Does that make sense? There's not a lot of,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more environment, a lot more. All the things that the main character touches.
Yeah, they all have to be modeled, and they all have to be, designed, and that's one thing I think junior artists would do well to focus on. Have a killer portfolio with, guns and barrels, and just things that a character would interact with, stuff that you would see in game.
Crates.
Yeah, crates, barrels,
Crates.
boxes.
I've never seen so many crates in my life as is in a video game.
Yeah. Well, it's such a, it's an easy thing, right? Like you just throw a block in.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's always these, warehouses full of random stuff, and
Yeah.
you can't think too much about it. Like, wow,
No.
who would ever arrange
'Cause-
their space like that? It's stupid, right?
Yeah,
Even
that it's a maze. It's like,
Yeah.
I couldn't get a forklift in here.
Yeah. Well, even like think about the Death Star, like their weird trash compactor set up with a guard room on the other side where everyone get changed. Like there's a lot of stuff that's just put in to games and movies that just to facilitate the script. It really doesn't make any logical sense. Like, why would you do that? How do you get around here? Who's in charge? Where's the bathroom? Like the logistics stuff, right? Like the
How
USS
come these walkways got no
no rails?
railings? Giant
Right.
walkways, no railings.
Well, like the Hobbit movie, right? The second one that just came out. They show the Dwarf Kingdom, and they're running around these giant, huge stairwells, and all these. It's a kingdom, right? It's this giant place with huge walkways and like the scale is enormous, right? And the whole time I'm thinking, can you imagine being a parent there? Like you'd always be holding on to your kid, like don't fall off this, don't fall off. There's no railings, and if you fall off, you fall something like 2,000 feet to your death.
Like,
Giant stairs that there's no railings, so everyone's either got to be super tough or incredibly good cardio, just
Yeah.
going. I got to go to the market today, and it's going to take me 6 hours of going up and down.
maybe dwarves have like a lot of kids.
Well, it sounds like
They just don't care as much about each kid.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lost one off the off that
well,
ledge again.
I'm still not going to change my rails. We're just going to keep up with the crappy dwarf rails.
It's just
wonder-
how it works
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Dwarfland.
Yeah. So, you get what I'm going on with that.
Yeah.
These are things that
Stuff.
they really should spend time thinking about and designing, and showing that they thought about this stuff, because I think that would be a real benefit to their portfolios if they had more. It shows thought process, it shows creativity, it shows a lot, right? And anyways, that's my rant on that subject.
Well,
Good to see.
I don't know. I'm really. I think that 3D printing isn't quite there. It's
No.
close. It's really close.
Yeah.
The main problem is deposition printers, like the ones that kind of lay down what's basically like a hot glue layers of plastic. They're not really good at building the things that people want.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's
Well, I was talking with a client today who makes miniatures and miniature games and that kind of thing. And he's old school. He gets them sculpted and casts them himself and prints them, and and not prints them, but packages them and sells them, and that's his thing, right? And that's the business. And I was talking to him about, like, well, how's this going to change your business model? And he's like, well, it's going to completely change it and make it irrelevant, eventually. But
Wow.
right now,
I think it just changes it. I don't know about relevant. Like,
well, maybe irrelevant's not the right word, but he does make a good point when he says, people aren't really going to be sculpting these things traditionally anymore. They're going to be 3D modeling them, right? And I think, I'm thinking stuff like, 3D modeling software, or CAD, that type of stuff is just going to be taught in high school, and everyone's going to have a 3D printer in their home, and you have a part that breaks down in your car. Instead of going to buy something, you fix it. You can print the new part, right?
yeah.
Or buy the CAD file to print it yourself, like that kind of thing. Like, I think that's what's really going to change. It's going to make us so independent. I think it's really going to change our economy structure. We're not going to be buying plastic pumpkins from China anymore, where we can just print them ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the things like that. It's the things that you only need one of, and you don't mind paying a bit more for, like, that are they're luxury items, because there's no way that you can compete with a 3D printer. It's just not the volume of industrial manufacturing is so massive that they can make that same thing for 4 cents, but it costs, no matter what you do, it's going to cost you, 40 cents.
But the inconvenience of having to go to a store, or
exactly,
and then there's people who just take pleasure out of doing it themselves, like making it, and I think it's going to free our society. I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be a day when instead of going to Toys R Us to buy a toy for your kid, you're just going to print it and put it together.
Yeah,
and
just make your own.
Yeah, and I think it's really going to free us creatively. People are going to. I think the stuff that people are going to come up with is just going to be terrific. I'm wondering, okay, how's this? I'm trying to think ahead. Like, how is this going to affect my industry, my business? So will I be doing more design work for sculptors so they can make stuff? They'll always still need someone to draw something out. I think.
Absolutely. Just like you still need the sculptor, just like you still need the,
It's just a different tool, right?
Exactly.
I think you're going to need more people who have that skill set, like where they can make a CAD drawing or like an engineering drawing to do the printout, or to figure out, well, this how does this and this combine to make this? Like, how do we make this a reality? Like, one thing is, okay, I'm going to draw something. The next is I'm going to sculpt it. The next is, okay, well, how do we put it together, right? And for little things like a lot of times right now, 3D modeling is used for entertainment. I'll make a 3D model and we put it in, virtual reality in a movie, and now we have the Incredible Hulk fighting aliens, right? Or we're gonna put a character in a space and that doesn't really exist, like a real actor. I think it's going to open it up even more, where I'm starting to ramble here, but it's not going to be limited to just entertainment. It's going to permeate our lives.
Right.
Like, there's going to be 3D printed food, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I did so much milling, right? So which is kind of the opposite. You're taking a big block of material and you're cutting away everything that isn't the thing that you want, right? So it's a very Michelangelo sort of mindset.
Right.
But it's very much the same sort of problems you deal with, and where it's as much an art task as an engineering task. But it'll be, just like it's always been. The people who were the Renaissance artists, where they were had to be artist, engineer, designer, is gonna be. They're gonna be in demand again, and still, So I'm not saying that I'm one of them people, but that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, I think you have an advantage. It's like how often do you talk to, like, I talk to, say, someone from my parents' generation, right? And to them, operating a computer is like asking them to, okay, well, reboot your computer and do, okay, well, open up your system settings and check your control panel. And they'll look at you like, oh my God, you're talking Greek. I could never do anything like that. And that's really one of, like, the most basic tasks anybody could do on a computer, right? Reboot it, like, turn it off, turn it on again. It's where you got to keep up your skills, you got to maintain, and you got to be able to adapt, right? And I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to do that. They're still going to think, well, I want to get myself a plastic pumpkin, I better go to Walmart because that's where I get these things. Whereas, a guy who's, half handy can be like, well, I could print it in sections and then glue it together, or I could design it so I can print it in sections, and then I could, have like some sort of tab structure built into it, so I just click it together and it's done. And then when Halloween's over, I can disconnect it and put it away. And I'll print it in an orange colored resin instead of a white colored resin, or you know what I mean?
It or have and then they can customize it and make their own and make one with a picture of their family on it, or
we want to do one that looks like Bruce Campbell, or we want to do like that. I think we're gonna eventually see more of that, and those guys who can do that type of stuff, people are going to be just like. Now, I don't know if it ever happens to you, but like if someone in my family has a computer issue, they call me. Can you come and help me? My computer, I can't turn it on, right? And that's great. I don't mind doing that. And I'm by no means am I like some kind of computer troubleshooter, but I've got enough experience, and I'm not afraid of them that I can turn it on and try to. And most of the time, I can figure it out. It's usually something pretty minor.
I heard
right?
from the computers though, they're afraid of you.
Yeah, that could be it. It's the smell. But I think we're going to see that people who can think 3D, right?
Yeah, or designy, because there's a lot of things you can do that are just flat, but that can be reassembled into an object, a 3D object.
Right.
Which is really most of what I did before, right? It's like, how do you take something that you're cutting out that's flat and then make it into something?
Right. Well, what I found when I was doing 3D when we were in school together, I had a real hard time wrapping my head around some of the ways you could model something three-dimensional. Like this is before they had, like what you're doing now. You're just in effect sculpting clay.
I'm just pushing and pulling. It just went straight back to sculpting. Then as soon as that happened, I was like, huge sigh of relief. This is.
When we were in school, it was okay. Well, let's draw the profile line and then extrude it to make a cup.
Right.
Where that just.
Which is still a valuable skill.
But I had a real hard time thinking that way, right?
Well, and it takes so much pre-planning.
Yeah, I found you had to have a certain sort of mindset, or it helped. Like some people, just like some people can speak French and some people can't. It was a skill that I struggled with. I didn't think that way, and now it's gone. The technology's caught up where you're just sculpting like anybody, right? And I think it's just going to become a basic skill. Like kids, I think kids will still sculpt 3D, like with clay and Fimo or whatever. But I think there's going to come a point where they're going to graduate to 3D a lot quicker. Like you and I learned it as adults, right?
Yeah,
and it'll be like a standard class in high school or something.
Yeah, because and then I was kind of doing it in university, and it was an oddity.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be a real dramatic change for our world, but I think for the better. I think it's going to really.
I'm really excited about this. There's that $100 3D printer, Peachy printer. It's a guy from just outside of Saskatoon come up with this thing that's just brilliant in its simplicity. It's just kind of like you float some resin on top of salt water, and then he's got a thing that drops in more salt water. Like it just drips it in at a steady rate, but then it can also detect the drops. So then it knows when to shoot the laser at the resin by how high the liquid level is supposed to be.
What?
So it's dripping in salt water underneath, and this resin just floats on top of the salt water. So it'll stay above it all the time. And then it shoots a laser down at the resin and solidifies it. But the whole thing is so simple that it's going to be $100, or that's their.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
And because the material, while it's being printed, is floating in water, it means you have to be really careful about it getting jostled and stuff. But if you can kind of isolate it, it's suspended, so you can print these structures that you can't print with a normal 3D printer, because it would topple over itself, or gravity would affect it. So it's just sitting there suspended, getting printed. So he did these kind of lacy looking structures that were, they're not perfect yet, but they're getting there. And it's super cool, and I really want one.
You know what? It's going to be like back in the day when remember when everyone bought their first digital camera?
Yeah.
And they were such pieces of garbage,
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like, oh, I got like 5 megs on this camera. This is awesome. Look, I can take 6 pictures, and but it's digital. I think that's how this technology is, like what you're describing. Like this guy, it's innovative, it's great, but in 15 years, it's going to be a joke.
Oh, less time than that, yeah.
Yeah,
5 years, it'll be like, oh yeah, that was the peachy Mark 1. Now it's the Mark 7, and it, and it just printed out me a pair of socks.
Yeah, well, that's one thing too.
On
like
my feet while I was sleeping.
Yeah, like if you and
I'm
wrote
scared.
a book.
I'm really scared because I didn't ask for those.
Yeah. Yeah, it wrote a book. There you go. Well, I mean, I think it's gonna fundamentally change our world, just like the internet has. For the better. It's really exciting times. I'm thinking. I keep gushing about it, but I was talking about this to my dad, and he's 60 something, early 60s, and just the whole thought of it it blew him away. I described it to him, and now they have like metal 3D printers, industrial, like.
Well, I could have got that dragon done in metal.
Yeah.
If I wanted.
That's crazy. That's cool, but it's it's intense. It'll be really neat. It'll be. For me, I think the struggle will be to stay relatively current. That'll be tough. But I don't want to be afraid of technology.
But I think, I keep thinking that maybe every generation thinks this, but I keep thinking that we're past that.
What?
Like the ability to be afraid of it, because it's just so commonplace. Like if somebody says, some people definitely will, but if somebody said like, hey, here's a new phone, and it projects the screen up into the air in front of you, and it knows where you're going before you get there, and it's already ordered you the food on the way, and like you would look at that, and rather than being terrified, though it might be a little weird, you'd be like, oh yeah, I guess so. Mm-hmm. That's something that could happen. You can figure out how it works, right? It's not not magic.
I don't know about figuring out how it works, because to be honest, how many people do you know actually understand how their computer works?
Well, like at a physical electrons level, or
no, like it has a hard drive and a motor and a fan and a power supply and a on button.
Yeah, there's probably not that many, but
it works because it works. Right? Like, how many people with their car, they turn it on and it goes, and when it doesn't go, they take it to a mechanic, right?
Yeah, I think which is weird.
Automation.
You should probably know how your car works.
Yeah, and that's where I think our society's going, though, or has been, is we have such a consumer disposable way of looking at things. So people don't need to know. And my car doesn't work, I'll go buy a new car. There's people who are like that.
Yeah.
And
I just can't even fathom, like the farmer, the small amount of farmer that's in me would be just like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
like
haven't you ever heard of baling wire? Come on,
you fix that shit. Fix it until everything on it falls apart.
Then you fix
until somebody dies.
Yeah,
you fix it.
Yeah,
and
I'm that way with the car. I mean, and I think this conversation we're having is one-sided because we're both coming from the same thing. Like, we ask questions, we try to think about stuff, and curiosity entertains us. Like, I like finding out things. It's entertaining. I want to know more. Like, picking up a book, it doesn't matter what the subject is. I'm like, I might get, like, it's a book. Let's read the back and see what it's about and get something out of it. And, knowledge is entertaining and there's satisfaction in getting it, right? Mm-hmm. But I really, and it makes it, to make a comment about anybody else or whatever, it always makes you sound like you're putting yourself on a pedestal. And that's not the case. It's just there are a lot of people out there who
I am.
Don't think. Yeah, well, okay, you're arrogant.
I'm awesome.
But there's people out there who don't think about these things. They don't care, and I think they're the majority. Or they don't know, and they don't have an interest. Like, not everyone's going to have an engineering degree, right? And I think there was a time earlier, like 50s, 60s, where kids got science kits as Christmas presents or birthday presents, right? And they went out of style. I know in the 80s, we got one, and it went out of style pretty quick, right? But there's less and less people are asking, how does that made, or how do we do that? Kids aren't really being encouraged to do that. They're more being encouraged to press buttons and be little drones and consume.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the pendulum's swinging around. I don't know which way it's going.
Well, I hope that. Yeah, I hope this whole, like, the maker mentality.
Well, that's why I think with 3D printing, it'll change our society, where people will get back to that self-sufficient sort of way of looking at things. Less is more, like the regulator assembly on my Jeep broke, and instead of paying $150 for a whole assembly, I could 3D print a clip for 25 cents and done, and I think it's good. Think about how, like, that one example will completely change the automotive industry, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you make a piece of junk car, people aren't going to buy replacement parts from you. They'll make it themselves.
Well,
or maybe they'll make their own car.
I think,
right?
Especially once more electric takes off, which it will, and I think it's going to be kind of I think that's going to be one of those, like, whiplash sort of things where, like the iPhone, where it was like, no iPhone for forever, and then boom, like, everything is a smartphone. There's no, like, if you have a phone that isn't a smartphone, that's weird.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be like that with electric vehicles too. But then with that comes the ability for people to work on them.
Yeah.
More, like,
Well, like, nowadays, a lot of cars, they have computers in them, mm-hmm. and if something goes wrong, you have to take it in, so the computer will tell you. Or you'll get an error code, and it's in your manual, like, this light flashes, and then this happens, then it's an error code for this. A lot of, it's a necessity, but we're in a situation where people aren't able to figure that out on their own. They need the technician, whereas...
I got one of them things that I plug into the...
Right, but
ODBC reader and
how many
hook up to my phone.
Know where they can plug that stuff in?
Maybe, yeah.
But I don't know.
I guess that's what you're saying.
You're a minority.
Fascinated
right?
by that.
Yeah, but it's self-sufficiently. But then if people are 3D printing their own things, they're going to ask questions like, well, how do I get the electronics to work? Right? How am I going to? Okay, well, if I want this piece to connect to this piece, what is a better joint? And like things like that, like like basic stress components, and it's going to get people's brains going. I think getting them thinking about stuff, basic problem solving skills and puzzle. Like, it's going to be a big puzzle in a game, and I don't know. Like, at least that's what I'm thinking it'll go. But it'll become more fundamental, right? Just like everyone needs to know 2 + 2 = 4, right? It'll just become second nature when we're manufacturing our own stuff, and I think it'll get people less dependent on our economy as it is. People won't have to live in cities to, like, how many people, well, I want to live in a city because I have access to all these different things, right?
Right. Yeah.
But when you can live up in the top of the mountain and you can print your own food, well, all you really need to do is get a hold of your resin or your raw material,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, so, that you can get shipped in bulk in barrels. Oh, shit, that's where all those barrels come from in the video games.
Yeah.
The future is full of crates of stuff.
Well, now, with all these drones that they're pushing on us, they'll probably be like, Amazon wants to have drones to drop off your packages, right? So, you know, in 20 years, it'll probably be some sort of Zeppelin service that brings, you know, your package of resin to your house, right? And it's such a standard, it's considered like just how the internet in some countries is considered a human right. You know,
Yeah.
it'll be the same having access to these types of things. It's like having a roof over your head and warmth in the wintertime, you know? Like I think it'll be like Star Trek where they have replicators everywhere and that's just what they do. You know, as long as you have a power supply to operate it, you're good.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about how impactful that would change everything. Like, you know, everything. Yeah, it would. It's fascinating to think about it, but I think the scope is pretty dramatic, and I think a lot of people are gonna have a hard time adapting. You know, are gonna get left behind. Like I know young people today in their early 20s who can barely operate a computer. And to me, that's almost like being illiterate,
Right.
right?
Except
Like,
for they constantly use a computer but can't use a computer.
right?
Like
Like
if it does anything other than what they expect of it,
yeah,
then
yeah.
they can't figure out how to. You know, I'm like, well, just go to the command line and start punching in. Well, no.
yeah. Well, I mean, even just
It's
basic
hard.
things for them, like they use it for email, maybe, you know, and word processing is a challenge for them when they have to, you know, type a resume or get it printed. You know, like that rudimentary stuff is they know how to do it, but it's a pain, and you know, if everything doesn't work out, well, the drivers for this printer doesn't work, and you know, then they're totally screwed. You know, instead of just going on the website and downloading new drivers, you know, they just, you know, put their hands up and walk away. So, you know, it has become integral to their life, but they've almost been isolated away from it. Like it's become such a, what is an example? I'm trying to think of something like something, you know, it's supposed to work, and it's like a mirror. It works. You look at it. You have no idea how it's made, and you know if it's broken, you can't fix it. You know, like it's some sort of, it's just an object that you just take for granted.
Yeah.
This is where I'm getting at, or a service you just take for granted.
Refrigerator.
Yeah. Don't get me started on refrigerators. Had a few problems with that.
Oh, you were you had something you wanted to talk about. You had a
well,
discussion point.
I had something. This
That's
is
awesome.
something that's been it's not really a discussion point, but I've run into a couple of tricky wickets. Not really tricky wickets, but something that I've had some interesting conversations about with my wife, and that I've been dealing.
I'm
I've
not
had to-
involved.
No. It's not
Okay.
nothing like that. But it's regarding beauty, the female form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had a couple of issues for multiple clients recently where the client will say, "Well, this is my reference. I want you to draw her or make the person look like this," right? So you draw it for them, beautiful fit woman, and nice image, and then they'll look at it and say, you know, you need to make her look. She's got to be better looking. You need to make her skinnier." You're like, well, okay. Yeah, and I'm like, well, whatever the client wants, the client gets. It's not a big deal, right? But from like an aesthetic angle, you look back and go, well, what does this say about our society? Like, unless she's a Victoria's Secret model, then she's ugly, right? Just like with Cosmo, how you know they Photoshop the hips off these women where
Right.
like they're literally shaving off pieces of the hip bone to make it work, you know? And, you know, when someone asks you that question, it, you know, makes you question yourself, like, well, what is beautiful, and why are they thinking that she's not good looking enough that we have to make this change, you know? Like, what? It just, you know, makes me think, right? And I don't know, it's been on my mind, you know,
Like what the conventional. Well, see, that's I have a. I think that the marketing objective, or the, you know, the marketed vision of what is pretty or what is beautiful is not actually what most of society thinks is beautiful. Because it's one of those things so that, you know, if you go if you go walk around, a good like 85% of people in the world are reasonably attractive, or fairly attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably the majority.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about that, it sort of becomes obvious. Like, well, yes, if the majority isn't attractive,
Mm-hmm.
like we're not going to be a species for very long. Like we're gonna see our peers as attractive.
Well,
And
okay.
it becomes so then when you're striving to find what is beautiful, or what is this perfect image of what is beautiful, you start to stray outside of what is normal,
right.
because you're searching for an ideal.
Well, because it's supposed to be unique, and that's why it's special and beautiful.
But the norm is actually what people are drawn to, not not the unique. Like when you do that, like beauty face match thing, where you take like 300 faces and you just mash them up on top of each other, it just starts to look like one generic just person,
right?
That's kind of not identifiable as anybody,
mm-hmm.
but they're attractive. Like that face, that mashed up 300 people face.
Well,
I
remember
attractive.
seeing one on the web recently where they did a poll, like Revlon did a poll, and they built the faces for what is considered the most like a beautiful woman, and they take like Angelina Jolie's lips and Megan Fox's chin and this person's that, and they just mashed them into these faces, right?
And
you look at it,
Frankenstein.
Well, it looks pretty messed, but the women, like Angelina Jolie's the it girl, so everyone wants to have big puffy lips, right? And like beauty is such a fickle thing. Like if you look back at art history, you look at back in the day, beautiful women were like fat, like grotesquely fat to our standard now.
Sometimes, yeah. Or
like it depends on which time period, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it,
like the Rubenesque sort of thing, like from
like where they're just these giant hips, pear-shaped bodies, but then they have narrow waists and no belly, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, just but like they've got wrist rolls and chin.
Well,
rolls.
And that's because it's the youth and health.
Well,
right.
and also, back then, you'd have to, it's a rare person who can eat like that and still have milky white skin, and, like, that was the sign of opulence and rarity and beauty, right? It's basically what you don't have. So here, like nowadays, we have abundance in everything, right? Like, you can walk out your door and eat anything you want, right? Pretty much. And there's tons of food in the grocery stores.
I'm gonna eat my tree.
Well, yeah, but like you have all these things, right? And people basically skinny is the look, and these are people who deny themselves that or have some sort of freaky metabolism where they can eat whatever they want and they still stay stupid skinny, right? Like the majority of the people out there are, they're not skinny. They're, whatever a healthy body weight is or more. Most people are a little bit overweight, depending on where you go and what demographic, right? But it's basically beauty is, what isn't normal, what is not the norm, what is hardest to achieve, The one constant with beauty is symmetry. I've found, symmetry of features, fitness, is always, considered. Like I'm not talking like bodybuilder fitness. Because that kind of borderlines on the grotesque in some ways, but fitness in the sense of, like healthy looking and active and like I don't know. There's a lot to it. There's no one size fits all. But from like like an entertainment angle or advertising angle. They, it's just for me. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting experience to go through that. Like I've had conversations with our clients, like, "We'll make our boobs bigger," and okay, how big? You just talking about the beauty, where the aesthetic, like you look at a porn star and they're all like plastic fake, like giant boobs, giant hips, very narrow waists, big lips, and
sort of
plastic
gross.
surgery. They're almost grotesque too, like some of them, right? But they're also kind of normal looking people in a way, right? And I guess they come in all shapes and sizes and variety. And then models, like the recent Victoria's Secret model girls, they're all like, they look like you could hold them up to a concentration camp survivor, and there wouldn't be that much of a difference, like wearing lingerie. Like the difference is they have lots of makeup and tan skin, big hair, but clothing, like body type wise, I mean, when you can make out the inner tendons of the inner thigh, that's
that
too
ain't
skinny.
right.
Yeah, like that's I don't want to see all your ribs. A human being, you shouldn't be able to wrap your hands around their waist. That's very thin. Like there's only so much the human structure should be able to withstand. And I've known models in my life, successful models, people who've done it professionally, and when you talk to them, like they'll tell you they're freaks of nature, right? Like I knew a buddy of mine who he worked as a model in Italy for a couple of years, and he's like, I'm just a freak. Like I eat KD and junk food, and I just can't put on the weight. Like at the time he had the it look, right? And how many people can eat poutine all day and not put on a pound, right? But their metabolism's like that, or they have the body type that can do that, right?
For a second there, I thought you were going to talk about Dan.
No, Dan Bacon?
Yeah.
No, not Bacon.
Okay.
I was talking about Tommy Guns.
Oh, okay.
Tommy Guns, he worked in Italy for a while as a model.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. I think I've only met him once, though.
Yeah. No, he's done lots of fun stuff in his life. He's definitely out there. And he's a fireman now in Whitehorse. And he's looking to, I think he'd like to move back to Calgary. A little too much time up in the Yukon, time to come home. But it's just interesting perspective on things. Like I know from like the technical angle of beauty and what it takes. So when people who don't know anything about drawing or anatomy or anything, they just know that skinny is what I like. She has to have thigh gap or she's fat. These types of things, and it really does break down to simple factors for some people, and I guess that's what society wants, or how we're being.
It's sort of weird
steered.
to me, but
yeah, like maybe I don't know if you're getting that. Like I find it kind of a weird sort of conversation, weird.
Yeah,
concept.
well, and because I think a lot of it also comes from like what we do or what we have done. Like, I have sat in a room and looked at a lot of naked people.
Yeah,
a lot. And
yeah,
all different sizes and shapes and varieties, and you really, when you're worried about where the collarbones are,
yeah,
you stop caring about a lot of that falls away really fast when you have to deal with the shape, and you start to see how all different shapes are they're equally beautiful, interesting. Like you start to not see you start to see interesting.
It's all about the form.
Yeah, and you're like, we had this one guy who would come in all the time at university, and he was probably, 280, but he was a fantastic model. Like he you wouldn't think it's that difficult a job, but there are definitely people who are better at it than others.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was good at it, and it would be really interesting. Like he would, and you start to think, well, maybe it's not, and then you get like a dancer comes in or something, and that's interesting in all different other ways.
I remember at art school, actually, I got really frustrated because people would request the fat art or the fat models or the or the old models, right? Like,
Yeah.
I only once ever got to draw, a quote unquote beautiful person, like a fit person. A
Yeah, you
dancer.
end up getting a lot of because of
yeah.
the interest. Like people start to just want to. Well, that's interesting drawing this person who's kind of wrinkly and it's like layering of cloth or something, right?
Well, when there's one person in Calgary, and she modeled for us when you and I were at school together, and when I've gone to drop-in modeling like figure drawing sessions in Calgary just a few years ago. She's still active, right? And I remember drawing her at ACAD, and you draw the same person all the time. Like she's like an older lady, all muscle.
Or is she like she's like a marathoner or something?
Yeah,
She's all sinewy.
Like a bob haircut.
I remember.
You can make out like all the vertebrae on her back, and I've drawn that woman naked so many times, and it's just boring. I don't want to draw the same person over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm not learning anything new. Like, I guess that's a cop-out, because you can always learn something new. But I'm not interested in. It's boring. I want to draw beautiful people. I want to draw old people. I want to draw clothed people, right? Like I want the variety, and I felt that
was an odd rarity, and you'd be like, well, like when you start to get to the point where it's like, can't I draw somebody with clothes on?
Yeah,
that'd be nice. And
yeah.
People look at you like you're bonkers. Like,
we're supposed to be artists in figure drawing.
Well, or they think that, well, wouldn't you want to draw all the naked people? And be like, well, no, not all the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you're sitting there.
Of it.
You're not oogling them, like they're just. I could be drawing a rock and giving the same sort of focus, right?
A lot of other things to think about at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to be in the community to really get it, because people who aren't, they just think, oh, you can just draw naked people all day. Oh, what a job that is. It's like, oh. If you can draw...
The first few times, maybe.
Well, if you can draw the nude, you can draw anything. I think. Personally. Like, I think the human form is the most complicated form we have.
Yeah.
You can draw and paint a human form, you're doing good.
I think it's I don't know about anything. Because, there's definitely a skill to, like if you got somebody like a Chip Foose who can draw cars like a crazy, I don't know, maybe he can draw people really well. I've never seen it, but his cars are magnificent.
Yeah.
And that it's, I don't know.
No, you make
that's a different skill.
Yeah, it is. I guess it's an oversimplification on my part, but I've just always... I find the human form, it's always presenting challenges. There's so many...
I agree with that.
Like, if you draw a face on a person, every single face is different. Mm-hmm. And it's just subtle nuances, like you look at, some people, they'll look at someone from a different culture, ethnic or heritage, race, background, whatever. They'll look at them and say, well, all Chinese people look the same. Right, you'll hear stuff like that, or all whatever, and then all white people look the same. And but they really don't. There's just such subtle differences, and if you carefully study, you'll pick it out. You'll notice, and you got to work with that. And it's a challenge to do it, and with the anatomy and the structure and the movement, and like it never gets old.
No,
there's always
something.
Something
never get old. That's true.
Whereas you're right though, like perspective drawing. Being able to construct something from, your imagination and make it look like a real mechanical object, like a car. I mean, that's a whole other skill set too, right? Mm-hmm. Drawing, like stairwells in perspective, like 3-point perspective, right? I mean, interacting with a horizon in a real, set, like that's a whole other skill set too. But I think the figure drawing is one of those things. If you can get it down, you can apply all that to everything else. Because you got to draw the figure in perspective if you're drawing it into space.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn so much about drawing in relation, like proportion, and it all applies. Like you're drawing a room. Well, if you can draw a figure in proportion to itself, you can draw a vase in proportion to the table it's sitting on. So like it's all relevant, relative, and I don't. It's nice to have the variety, though, of being able to do that, and I hope I never have to draw that lady again, ever. It's so lovely.
That'll be your next thing. It'll be like, we want somebody who looks exactly like this, and 300 times.
Yeah, I remember one time when we actually had a good-looking model when I was in art school. I remember being like, "Oh, she's really hot." Like this is it's hard to concentrate on what you're doing. It's like, well, I'm drawing this really good-looking girl,
and that lasts for about 4 minutes until you're into your third like quick sketch, and you're just like, I gotta focus.
This toilet bowl shaped tattoo on your shoulder is throwing me off, stuff like that. Like, I know what you're doing. I found interacting with models was always weird too. Like when it is
weird.
Yeah, they'd get down off their whatever structure they're standing on, and then they'll come and talk to you or comment about your work, and you're like, no, you're not a person, you're an object.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, don't talk to me. That's weird. Or you don't have any clothes on. You put your clothes back on. Stop talking to me. Weird stuff like that.
It is odd.
Yeah, I remember that happening.
You definitely, I don't know, I don't know, maybe you never do get quite used to that. That's always, I had one an acting prof who came in and was the model for one of my painting classes.
Yeah.
Which was then super weird.
Yeah,
I went back to acting, and I'm like, huh.
I've seen you naked.
Yeah, I was painting your junk.
One time, we were painting this model, and he was going around the class. It was figure drawing class, and he was going around the classroom. So we were trying to depict movement, right? So he was always moving around in space, and he'd radiate throughout the room, like in a circular pattern. And every 10 seconds, he'd stop for 30-second poses. Yeah, short, quick poses, right? But when he came to my desk, like my easel, he stopped and put his leg up, bam, like right on the, and like, okay, no longer are you just a guy moving around the room, an object. You're a human being interacting with me in my space, right? Like I couldn't draw him while he's standing there looking at me with his leg up on my table, right? I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's pretty.
You crossed the line.
Pretty alpha, man.
yeah. I was like, okay, okay, you made your point, and I just the funny stuff that happens when you right? And I even remember the names of some of these people because you'd see them. There was never a real big community of people who would model.
No,
right?
No.
And so yeah, there's only so many of them around. So you do get to talk to them, or who it is, or the teacher refers to them by their first name, and then you remember it.
That's something I haven't done in a long time. Gone to figure drawing.
Yeah.
And really should. Like, definitely drawn people, figures, but not figure drawing. I got his cheeks way too low. Gotta come way up here.
Well, I've personally found, like, I figure draw every day, all day, right? But I'm working from reference.
Yeah.
So you don't have that I'm making a direct observation from real life. And to a degree, that flattens out what I do. Well, everything looks a little...
Well, but it's for efficiency's sake, though, right?
Totally. But I went to a figure drawing session. I haven't been in a long time, but I remember going, and this would be years after art school, right? And I hadn't been to a figure drawing session in the meantime. And I went there and I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional artist. I'll be able to rock this. And man, it was hard. You know, I was doing it like, wow, my drawings suck. Okay, first of all, I never draw standing up. And I never use charcoal, and I don't use those tools anymore. That skill set for drawing from life, in life, where you're not, like, I draw from life all the time, but I'm using a big pen and a sketchbook, which is a completely different experience from standing there looking at a model and trying to get a gesture or that kind of thing, right? It's a different experience. So, I remember being embarrassed by the work I had done and thinking, wow, this is something about working at a big scale. It's like that section of my brain atrophied, and
it's definitely different. Like when I'm using a tablet, why I wanted to go to the smaller tablet, because I've checked to see what's the distance my hand travels, and it's about 4 or 5 inches.
Right.
Like, that's it, because I can just change the canvas.
Right.
So you never actually have to do anything other than small scale, which is, it's a different, I don't know, it makes your brain work in different ways.
Yeah. I don't work traditionally anymore at all, pretty much. But although I found, like, my process, the way I work, is completely based on traditional practice. Right? Like, I don't use a ton of layers in Photoshop, or if I use them in a way that I would do it if I was painting in a watercolor, like your line drawing, your underdrawing, or whatever. Like, I still think of it I still approach it the same way I would a painting. Whereas you look at some guys who paint digitally, and it's very different from, like, they still get an interesting or successful piece in the end, but it's very different from, like, how you would approach it if you were painting it traditionally. So, sometimes I wonder if traditional skills are relevant anymore, or they're going out the door, and I think they're more relevant than ever in some ways.
Oh yeah, I think having it's like having a foundation, right? It gives you something to, because you can go and use all the new tools, but if you have I've sculpted people's heads out of clay long before I ever did this.
Yeah.
And you get I kind of get this sort of weird sense memory of sticking my fingers on, like, so I tend to follow lines of flow instead of just looking at it and putting things where they need to be. I'll flow over something a bunch of times and then come back and smooth it back out, because that's how you would have to do it. If you were laying down clay, you'd have to lay down more than you need and then come back and take some out.
Yeah, I was actually doing some clay sculpture. I get together with Nick. And we sat down.
We should get Nick on.
Well, I will. I should.
Okay.
We got down and we were doing some stuff for Rocket Punch, and we sat down and put on This Island Earth. We watched that movie. It's like one of Nick's favorite movies, and we watched it. And I was just sculpting. And
the original or the Mystery Science Theater?
No, the original. That old
that's a bad movie. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a classic. Like, if you're a cinephile, you have to watch it once. Just like Barbarella, you've got to watch it once.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. It's not as bad as I had heard, right?
No, it's pretty bad, but
yeah. No, I've seen worse. I've seen worse than This Island Earth, and so we're watching it, and I'm sculpting, and I hadn't sculpted 3D. Like, I could draw a human skull from memory, right? But to actually sculpt it accurately is a totally different bag. And getting, the one thing that Nick pointed out is, like, if you're right hand dominant, it's best to sculpt the left side first. Because if you sculpt the right side, you end up having a distortion. It's really hard to look at something and get the proportions accurate, the dimensions accurate, and you find there tends to be a bit of a slip from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. And, I found that out the hard way. I'm like, wow, look, my right eye is lower than my left eye socket, and then I'd have to go back and adjust it. And there's different methods, like you were saying, the subtraction or the addition method. Like some guys will sculpt something by just building up layers and layers of tiny little balls, and then kind of meshing it together. And other guys will just do the subtraction method, where they'll just take a block of whatever and then start carving away. And it's a totally, it's a really fascinating, and it's helped my drawing a lot, sculpting. Learn just by the act, makes you think about things differently. It makes you interact with your material differently and understand the forms better when you actually have to, build them. So.
I like anytime I've sculpted any like four-legged animals, I like just the feeling of that, because everything is basically the same. Like all mammal skeletons are basically the same. But then the differences really stick out. So you get this, it's an interesting mental exercise.
Yeah.
Looking at this and seeing how garbled up half of this is.
What's funny is we talk about how sculpting is important and great and all that stuff, and my daughter has got a bunch of Play-Doh, for Christmas and things, and I hate Play-Doh. I hate having it in my house. It makes such a damn mess. It's such a messy toy. Just Play-Doh everywhere and little bits of Play-Doh everywhere. It just drives me absolutely crazy. Because it's been ground right into my table. Like the wood grain of the table is Play-Doh grinds. It's just so bad. And I hate Play-Doh. But it's great you're sculpting and having fun.
Yeah.
But I hate your toy. It's got to go. And Play-Doh never works. Like I always hated it as a kid because you'd look at it and they'd have these beautiful, fun sculptures in the box with different colors of Play-Doh. I remember having the Star Wars Play-Doh, and I could never get it to look anything like what I saw in the box, like at all. Like they actually
put them in them molds, and then it would just turn into a weird misshapen purple thing.
Yeah, well, like the rainbow of color, right? It's like, well, Luke Skywalker's skin tone is supposed to be skin tone colored Play-Doh, and how do I make his hair because when you do the mold, it's all one block, right? But they managed to make it like separate pieces. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I remember being pissed off about that. I'm like, it's not like it's in the box. I don't want to play with this toy anymore. It's too hard. But that was in Star Wars. We were at the toy store, not the toy store, the Chapters Indigo. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe how much they're charging for like Star Wars Lego, like a dinky little tiny pack. It's just ridiculous. Like Lego is so crazy expensive.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there. And I remember when we were kids, you could get everyone had like Safeway bags full of Lego. Mm-hmm. It was always a giant thing of Lego. It's definitely it's gone up in price. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
Still fun.
Yeah. Well, I bet your boys get a kick out of it.
Oh yeah. We go up, and maybe I do more than they do. I don't know. We go up and play Lego.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Are they still having epic battles with the G.I. Joes?
They were today. They were throwing them down the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they'd be like, ah! And some poor Joe would meet his end at the bottom of our stairs, and then another one go over with the parachute.
Oh, the parachute, yeah.
That works sometimes.
Yeah, that was always a really fun one. That one I had to mail order for. That was you'd collect the little proof of purchases in the back of the packages. Yeah. Then you'd ship it off with $10, and they'll ship you, whatever. And I ordered anything. Like I would save up and order. I got Sergeant Slaughter that way.
Oh yeah.
And, that's how I got him. And in there, I got there was one where you could have your own Joe. Like you would tell them what your skills were, and you'd fill it all out, and you'd have all this like espionage or combat or hand to hand or whatever, and then you'd send away, and then you'd get a Joe back. It was just a generic like figure. They all look the same. They have a helmet on, so you can't see their face.
So one of these guys is a custom Joe.
Yeah, yeah. I think what was his name? I named him Silver Fox or something like that. You know, I thought that was pretty cool. But I remember getting like a badge, like I'm part of like the Iron Brigade or whatever it was, the Joe Brigade, and they could like sew it onto your coat. And I just was like, yes, I'm part of the Joes. This is awesome.
I always tried to get the ones from Atari, the Atari badges.
Oh yeah.
Not knowing that they had either run out, or probably shut down the factory that made those, like, I don't know, 4 years before I ever went and tried to do it.
You know what? I was talking to a client the other day, and he showed me a link. I guess there's this place in the UK where they make like metal, like pins, but they're shaped like army medals. Okay. And they're like the pin, like there was one he sent me, and it was like a Nintendo Power Glove on the pin, and it was like to commemorate all the thousands of battles fought and lost in the name of blah blah blah, and you know it's like like the Medal of Valor, except it's the Power Glove, and it's for nerds basically, right? But it was like the ultimate nerd award, and they had like crossed, like the light gun from the NES. They like crossed light guns, and they had all the different controllers from the different systems, and you are a veteran of the Atari wars and stuff like that. And that's pretty cool. I thought it was funny, but they were like 18 pounds.
That's too much.
Yeah, that's pretty stiff. A little stiff for this guy. But it was a neat novelty item. I would definitely, if I was independently wealthy, I would definitely consider it.
So what are you working on there?
I'm still working on the Predator thing. This piece I got to finish. I'm trying to get guys. Do you know of a good printer in Calgary? Like a place to get some prints made?
Depends what kind of things.
Well, I'd like to get some art prints.
I know where you can get banners done, but that's not really what you want. They're not going to be nearly high res enough.
I need to get a banner done, like a booth display type thing, right? I haven't decided if I want to get like a stand-up one. Or a one that you hang.
You know who would know? Vieco.
Well, I did talk to him, and he sent me some links to some guys, and I tried them both that he had sent. And I don't know what it is, but I've sent requests for quotes. I sent them on Monday, and it's Thursday, and I haven't heard back. Like, one guy got back to me and said, yeah, I can get you a quote. And then that was it. So that I'm like, so are you good?
Oh, you wanted that?
Yeah. I just, contacted you to find out if you could build me a quote for a service. And, I think I've spoken to 4 or 5 people. And they're all like, yeah, I'll build you a quote and I'll get back to you. And I haven't heard back, And I don't know. I was talking to a Mike today, and he was saying, yeah, that's pretty much standard.
Oh, yeah, they're...
Like, I guess in the printing industry, nobody gives a shit about service or time's money.
Doing quotes, not something which is weird. You'd think like new clients, right? But
yeah,
they're not too interested.
Is it because people are fishing a lot?
I couldn't even begin to tell you. I don't know why, but yeah, I've experienced that where you'd be like, when can you do this? Oh, well,
yeah.
And then they don't really care that much,
yeah.
But when they get a bunch of orders from a client, they're on it. So, depends, I guess.
Yeah.
What they're into.
I haven't had any luck, so I've been trying, like, I know Comic-Con it's in April, so I got time, but time, it goes by super fast, and if you need to get things printed, so I have to finish this piece soon, and I still have to do a piece for the art book, and actually I'll show you that. I can show you that. I started it. It was rejected. Actually, it was a piece I was working on for a client, and it got I did a bunch of concept art for them and some character designs, and then the project went in a different direction. So I still did the character illustration, but the characters all look different. They went from being classical, like Roman, Spartan kind of characters to, generic fantasy, like high fantasy type stuff, right? So this one, I started this one, and it's like a lion-headed kind of guy, right? So I'm going to finish him and put him in the show. So you might see me working on that one of our next episodes. But I kind of want to do a real epic fantasy card type piece for it, because it's going to be it's going to go in the book, but also use it for a portfolio, and that's my goal. So yeah, this is the piece I'm going to be working on. Make him look like crazy epic lion man.
Looks cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a sci-fi theme for this Comic-Con's art show. So.
Oh, is it? Like the whole thing, or?
Yeah, like generic science fiction, anything weird, as long as it's not a copywritten character, go for it, kind of. Last year's show, or the book, I don't know if you took a look at it or not, but
briefly.
Yeah, like they had the Adam Hughes cover, and then the rest was, there was a lot of people who were in Artist Alley who got in, like they didn't have, it didn't seem like they were too picky, or they had a lot of selection, right? Because they didn't seem like a lot of the people who submitted were professional illustrators. I guess is my point, right? They certainly weren't like Marvel's Who's Who.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But, well, I guess.
Maybe I'm being judgmental, but, some of the pieces looked like they were, amateur or done by students, So this year, I don't know, maybe it'll change. I know they got J. Scott Campbell coming for the show, and maybe he'll do a piece for it, and probably a pinup and some other good stuff. So
I haven't even looked to see who they have.
They got Bruce Campbell. He's coming.
Did he come before?
No, I don't think so. It'd be fun to see all the people dressed up as Evil Dead.
Yeah, that guy with his chainsaw.
Yeah,
with his reel. Just took apart a chainsaw.
Well, we watched Evil Dead, or Army of Darkness again not that long ago, and actually, I was watching it to see all the one-liners, because that's the best part. But it really isn't that good of a movie.
No, it's silly.
Yeah, and I remember watching it for the first time, and I remember the commercials when it was playing in the theaters. I remember Army of Darkness, blah blah blah, and thinking, what is this? This might be kind of cool. And then I never saw it, and then a buddy of mine, when I was in art school, recommended it to me, and I checked it out, and it blew my mind. It just sounded so funny the way he talked about it. I just had to watch it, and then sure enough, I saw it, and, this is, one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, defining moment.
Yeah, it is one of the best movies ever made. It's terrific, but it's not as good as I remembered it to be, right? Like, I couldn't watch it over and over and over. Same like Ace Ventura. Ace Ventura, when it came out, was stupid hilarious. And now when you watch it, you're like, oh, nostalgia. Pretty funny. Finkel, Einhorn, Finkel.
It's pretty stupid.
Yeah, I did watch Blade Runner the other day.
Yeah?
And it was the director's cut.
I have that, and I keep threatening to watch it. And
yeah.
Jesse's not interested.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd watch it. It's kind of a slow movie, depressing in a way,
Yeah, but I love it.
Yeah, it's got a real noir kind of drama feel to it. I never really got the vibe, though, is Deckard a replicant or not?
Yes.
I know the book, it's more relevant.
Yes, he is.
He is?
Yeah. Just, if I want to just spoil that for you. Yes.
But, I've seen the movie how many times, but they don't really even make it a situation where you question if he's a replicant. Except for that one time when they ask, have you ever done the questionnaire on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
But, it makes sense that they'd make a replicant to hunt replicants.
Well, and then it's the guy right at the start is what tips it off. What's his name? The other Blade Runner.
The cop with the limp.
No, the other who gets shot by Leon right at the start.
He's not a Blade Runner. He's
what's
like
his
an
name?
Administrator, isn't he?
No, he was another. He
He was
was
doing
the other.
the questionnaire.
He was doing the question. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was just like an administrator who worked for the company he was trying to get a job with.
No, he says he's a good cop. He'd be fine as long as nobody unplugs him or whatever.
Oh, okay. I didn't
He can
know.
breathe all right as long as nobody unplugs him. That's
yeah.
But you look at him, and the guy was chosen obviously because he looks like Harrison Ford,
Oh, okay.
and then the voiceover, I think, is Harrison Ford. They never say.
Oh,
It doesn't
okay.
say that it is, but I think it's his. I think it's actually his voice dubbed over this guy, who looks a lot like him, and it is made up to look like him. So
Right.
it's like they're just like out of the same bat,
Okay.
So they just to hunt
So
down the replicants, they just make this guy, like it's just one guy, and they just make him over and over again.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I
he
never
didn't
really-
recognize himself. He just was like, yeah, whatever, it's another guy, because he's programmed not to.
Yeah.
Or maybe they got him out of the vat as soon as this other guy got shot, right? Like that's one of the implications that Deckard's actually only, he's like 4 days old.
Well, why? I guess. I mean, it makes sense, but like from another angle, well, why go to all the trouble of convincing him he's real? Like.
It's easy to control him.
Yeah.
Because you
I
just
guess
send
so.
him. He's got this set of memories. He knows who he is. He goes, he's got a job to do. Does it?
Yeah, but-
He's really sure of himself that he's not a replicant.
But even in the movie, he he's quit and he doesn't want to be doing it. And he drinks all the time and he struggles with his
Exactly.
he's struggling with his role, and he doesn't necessarily see them as just machines to be executed, right? Like
Right. And
they are people, right?
He'd be like that every time. That's
Yeah.
one of the things is like that he's just this clone that they pop out a new one, and then he's
Well, maybe he's controllable because
exactly yeah.
he has that morality. Or he
And
questions-
he's always like that. So then, what's his name? The police chief his handler has had that same conversation with him over and over and over.
Well, why does the handler let him go then at the end? Like,
Because nobody lives. That's his last line is like, maybe
too
she'll
bad
live, but then,
yeah.
or too bad she'll die. Yeah.
but then we all die anyways, or whatever his line was.
Too bad she won't live.
Yeah.
But then again, who does? Yeah.
Like, you know the words.
Yeah, I kind of watched it a few times.
No shit. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense, right? I kind of got more of an impression from the movie that it was more questioning the morality and then like the slavery angle, and because he's a clone doesn't mean he's not human, and
And that he's a slave, just the
Well,
same as the other, just the same as who he's hunting.
not so much Deckard, but like Rutger Hauer's character, right?
Well, except he recognizes it, right?
Yeah, like Rutger
Hauer's
Hauer's
knows that he's a slave, but the other guy doesn't.
Yeah,
Deckard doesn't, but he is.
yeah, and but, okay. I'm operating on the premise that Deckard isn't a replicant.
Okay. Well,
So-
that's
That
Yes.
was my impression from the movie. So I know, okay, he is sure,
Okay.
but let's assume he isn't, right? So you're watching the show, and you can see he struggles with, the morality of his job, and are they people or just machines, and their role in that society, and To me, that's pretty interesting. Just that sort of discussion about what is like, if they're, are they property, are they slaves? Are they just machines? Do they feel? Don't they feel? Like it's just very complex when you're cloning people for a purpose, right?
Right.
What about real people? What's the difference between them and a replicant? Who's morally superior?
Right.
You watch Cloud Atlas, and then those women who are cloned, and their whole existence is just to serve at McDonald's, and they're just these objects that operate for a few years, and then
just fed to each other.
Yeah, and like that sort of thing. And it's funny because we also watched that movie 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's good. It's pretty tough, like slavery's, and I don't think they pull any punches when it comes to how it was for these people, right? And that world, and it just makes you question humanity. How could you not if you see how it is? And if we're in a world now where people are able to create clones I need a clone to, do my laundry, well, is that a human being or not? And you are technically making a human being. You're just putting limitations on its lifespan or its knowledge base, or but and it throws another thing into the loop when they know or they don't know whether they're clones or not.
Right.
Like if they, like Deckard, he doesn't know he's a clone, right? So for all intents and purposes, he isn't, except
exactly,
he serves a purpose. So and then, well, are we all just clones? It's like a Matrix question, right? Like it starts to make you ask deeper questions, or what are the implications of this, and blah, 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 blah. It's a thought-provoking movie, and I think that's why Blade Runner has been so successful and is so well remembered.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it so much. And I haven't watched this version, the new, but I've watched every other version of it, and the ones with the voiceover and without, and with the voiceover you get it's not good. I think it makes the movie worse, but there's some stuff that you learn about the characters in it that's really interesting.
Well, Sean Young was hot.
And real weird.
Yeah.
Like that, through that, and Dune. Man, she was weird. I think she's still weird. And
I think she was listed as one of the most difficult people in Hollywood to work with. That's why her career never really went much further.
Yeah, she's weird.
Well, she looked good in Blade Runner. Like she has just a really, really nice face, like aesthetically.
Mm-hmm.
That age, very like, just like that is, I wouldn't say perfect, but I mean it was right up there. Like you can't.
Was that would you call that an ideal of beauty?
Well, I think that would definitely be
go back to
something. Yeah, like I think they.
I think
I don't have the words, but she.
What you were saying before about like symmetry and
yeah, like that sort of thing. Like her lips were, very like they're very, shaped symmetrically very well. Her nose has a really defined and straight sort of structure, right? Like there didn't appear like, and of course the makeup, but there weren't any imperfections in her bone structure and the symmetry and like everything about the way she was presented in that film. It would define, like that would fit well in like a classical definition of beauty, right?
Yeah, which is
why she was moving.
Kind of part of the exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although, have you ever heard anything about Harrison Ford's take on the movie? Like, has he ever talked about Blade Runner? Like what he thought of it?
I think anytime I've ever heard anything from him, it's always I think he's very like kind of has like a craftsman attitude towards what he it was a job I did, and doesn't really get into much about it. It's like it was a job I did, and tried to present the story as well as possible, and that's it. And then never says like because after that, it's up to you to figure out
Sure.
how you like it or not.
Okay.
That's
okay.
what I'm speaking for him. I don't know. This is just the impression I get.
Right. Okay. Well, I was just curious because you're such a fan of the films. Maybe you had heard him speak on it or watched a special edition DVD.
I've heard
lecture
him
on
talk
it.
about it, but that's kind of how he talks about it, just like about doing the work, like
Right.
how interesting the world was, and
Yeah. Well, the design that Sid Mead did for that movie is really cool. Even the kitchen, that they put so much effort into just how that looks. Like the design, I think, for that movie is still cited as a major source of inspiration for a lot of people to this day. And I get a lot out of it visually when I look at it, when I watch it and see how the movie is, right? So, it's a tour de force. It's a good film. It still holds up to this day. Some movies do, like some of those '80s movies really, really were good. We had crappy movies like Nerds and Revenge of the Nerds, right? But then we also have other movies like Aliens and Blade Runner that just, I think, they still hold up.
oh yeah, like them and the origin of Terminators and
Yeah,
Predator. There you go.
yeah, Predator. Yeah. Well, as right now I'm working on it. Great '80s schlock. I guess they're doing a new Conan movie. It's going to be out 2014 with Arnold in it.
Oh,
Is
is
that
he finally
fun?
going to be the king?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know how
'Cause
well that's going to.
They had a plan, right, to do 3.
Yeah.
That they were going to do, the I read somewhere it was like the first one was about strength, the second one's about
Duty.
something,
Yeah.
and the third
Well-
one was about responsibility or something. Like they had this plan for him.
Well, what happened? I just watched. I know this because I just looked it up on Wikipedia because I would just watch Red Sonja the other day. Another
That's not
classic.
great.
Oh, yeah, but when I was a kid, I loved that movie. I thought it was just so awesome.
That and Beastmaster.
Yep, yep. That and Beastmaster, they're right up there. So, Red Sonja. So Arnold was in that. I guess he had a 3-movie deal with
So that was it.
John Milius. John Milius was the director. It was whoever the producer was for those movies, right? Or that studio. So he had 3 movies. The Conan, King Conan, or Conan the whatever it was. He was. They wanted him to do it. They were working on it. And then after he did Red Sonja, he's like, "No, I'm done. No more sword and sandal type movies. I'm done." Right? And especially after Red Sonja, where he wasn't the. Like, if you look at the movie poster, he's the biggest guy on the movie poster,
Right.
but he was not the hero. Like, he was the secondary character, right? And he's always there to help Red Sonja, but he's not really the main character, right? And at this point, like 1985, I mean, Commando had already come out, and Terminator, and like he was a big star, right? And he was taking, like, I think after that he went on to do projects like Predator and things, right? So he was done being, the second fiddle, and he was done with those types of genres. I think that's when his career really started, because then he started doing movies like Total Recall and Running Man, and those movies that really, like, I think after Commando he became established as a real #1 box office guy, and movies like Predator, I think, just, okay, he's arrived, right? This is it. So I think it was a career move for him not to do those movies anymore. And the Conan movie that you talked about, the third one, it was in development limbo for a while, and then they made it into Cull with Kevin Sorbo. Cull
That
the
actually makes some sense, yeah.
Yeah, and then like this new one they made with what's his face, the Samoan guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That movie. That movie's terrible.
I still haven't watched it.
Well,
Again, have it here. Haven't watched it.
yeah. I don't know if you're a fan of Robert E. Howard and the Conan IP and the characters. Don't watch it. It's It's
So I was
nothing.
going to be like, yeah, I kind of am. Or,
No, yeah, it has nothing to do with the character. Like it's just it's full on like they're using giant swords from Xena Warrior Princess type shit.
okay, well, now you got me back.
Huh?
Now I'm in. Now I want to watch it again.
Okay, yeah.
You lost me, and then
Yeah, like Conan's sword that he fights with. Again, they made up some bullshit about Conan's father and making a sword and blah blah blah. It's just this big, huge, clunky piece of foam. Like it looks like a big, clunky piece of foam, like something a LARPer would use. And a lot of the weapons and stuff all look like it looks like a LARP show. And they throw all this stupid, weird, Sin City fantasy. Like there's a giant boat that this guy has hundreds of slaves haul all over the world while he's looking for shit, and it's like, come on, like that, none of that stuff ever happened in Conan. Like the Conan Sword and Sorcery, the best part about it was so primal and basic, and when something weird was there, it was weird, and that's why it stood out. But it was always subtle, and the monsters were in the shadows, and you didn't, they didn't tell you everything, and that's why you had that sort of suspense and that interest, right? In these movies, they just throw it all out there. The character of Conan is just
sorry.
they don't even play him right. Like the guy just doesn't. He just didn't capture it at all. And they spent a lot of time on Conan as the boy, and I just was like, no, you don't show Conan as the boy. We don't need the origin story for Conan. The writer didn't even do the origin story for Conan, so why would you? So, anyways, it's Conan in name only, just like the Solomon Kane movie. That movie.
I didn't. Yeah, I don't have any plans on watching that. So.
Well, again, it's like if you're a Howard fan, it's just like, well, it's Solomon Kane in name only. There's nothing about it that's similar to the character at all, which is too bad because the character would make a really cool noir kind of occult fantasy type adventure, and no, they just do some stupid bullshit and call it Solomon Kane. And there you go.
So, what do you think about it then?
It was terrible.
Okay.
So let's see what you're working on here. You're sculpting. Are you doing Don Knotts?
Well, I am, but I have my because I don't want it covering up the page. I have my reference down in the corner, so he alternates between all different other people, and none of them are Don Knotts. But that's kind of you get part way to where you're going, and then you start pulling and pushing and moving. Because like you said, it's all in the subtle.
Well, you got to do like Mr. Furley from.
Yeah, I gotta get. Right now everything's all symmetrical, and that's absolutely not going to capture anything. I gotta lose the symmetry and start working his mouth up into the weird sideways grin, because that's what you get. And his ears need to be even bigger. And dude's got a lot of forehead.
Well, it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do, because like I was saying,
narrower chin, and so it kind of you get to where you start to see this rough bust, and if I did this more often, then maybe I'd be able to get to this place a little faster, which would be good.
Well, it's good practice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get to here, and then now I'm going to have to start getting some more profile shots and some other things that aren't just head on.
Next, you got to move on to I want you to do like a wild fantasy creature from D&D Monster Compendium.
Yeah,
something that's out there.
just a big.
I want to see a Displacer Beast.
Oh yeah,
you got to do a Displacer Beast, because those are just cool. Just even saying it is cool.
That would actually fit with what I usually do. So
yeah, it's like, I'm doing a dinosaur dragon. Just do a Displacer Beast.
Yep.
Cool. Well, dude, it's
yeah,
it's getting down there, so I'm gonna shut her down.
yeah. I'm gonna save this, and I'll come back to it later.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Been a good one, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.